What if the love you've been running from is the only thing strong enough to save you? The dust-filled wind swept down Main Street as Catherine Sullivan stood frozen in place, her threadbare shawl pulled tight around her shoulders. The Colorado evening carried a cold bite, but the shiver moving through her came from something deeper. She had spent 6 months in Canon City looking for a new beginning. Instead, she found empty pockets, unpaid debts, and a sick mother who depended on her. Life in the West rarely gave second chances. And now, standing in front of her, was the one man she feared wanting. Quincy Daniels. The rancher's son everyone admired. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sun-streaked brown hair and clear blue eyes that saw too much. When he stepped closer, Catherine looked down to keep him from reading her heart too easily. "I'm too poor for you, Quincy," she whispered, her voice breaking as the words finally escaped. "Your father owns half this county. I have nothing, not a thing." Quincy removed his hat and closed the distance in 2 firm steps. The silver on his belt buckle glinted in the last rays of the setting sun, but the light in his eyes was stronger. "Then I'll be poor beside you happily, Catherine," he said. His voice was steady, full of truth. "Money ain't what makes a man worth anything. It's what's in here." He touched his chest, his calloused fingers resting over his heart. Catherine searched his face, hoping to find even a hint of mockery that would make it easier to walk away. But all she saw was determination, hope, and something dangerous, sincerity. "Your father would disown you," she said, forcing steel into her voice even though it trembled. "Edmund Daniels would never allow his son to be tied to someone like me." "My father doesn't choose my heart," Quincy said quietly. "He never has." The saloon doors across the street slammed open, and a few drunken cowboys stumbled out, reminding Catherine that the whole town could see them. Heat rose in her cheeks. With shaky hands, she smoothed her faded blue dress, once her Sunday best but now worn thin from daily use. She met Quincy's eyes one last time. "Fine words, Quincy Daniels, but they don't pay rent. They don't buy medicine. They don't keep my mother alive." Before he could answer, Catherine turned and walked away, her boots crunching on the dusty ground. She didn't dare look back. If she did, her fragile resolve might crumble completely. She reached the tiny one-room cabin at the edge of town and paused to breathe. The wooden boards leaned to one side, the chimney crooked. But it was home. Inside, her mother, Mary Sullivan, sat by the window mending one of Catherine's worn petticoats. Her hands trembled with weakness, the sickness from the winter stealing her strength little by little. "You're late, dear," Mary said without looking up. Her voice was soft, thin, tired but warm. Catherine forced a smile. "Mrs. Hornsby needed extra help at the mercantile. She paid me an extra quarter. It was a lie, and it came too easily." Better than telling her mother that she had spent the afternoon trying not to fall in love with a wealthy rancher's son. Mary lifted her gaze and studied her daughter's face. "You've been crying." Quote, "It's just dust and wind," Catherine said quickly, turning toward the stove. "Dinner's ready." Mary set her sewing aside. "It was that Daniels boy again, wasn't it?" Quote. Catherine froze. "Mother." "I see how he looks at you in church," Mary said gently. "He seems a decent young man." "It doesn't matter what sort he is," Catherine said, dishing stew into 2 chipped bowls. "We live in different worlds." Mary's eyes softened with sympathy and memory. "Worlds collide sometimes, child. Your father and I came from different stations, too. Love found a way." Catherine sat beside her mother. "And look where that got us. Father chased gold until it killed him, and we're the ones left carrying his debts." "He left me with you," Mary said softly. "That's worth more than gold." They ate in silence, but Catherine's heart was anything but calm. Morning came with a hard knock that shook the thin cabin walls. Catherine jumped from her pallet on the floor and hurried to the door, shawl wrapped around her nightdress. Sheriff Wallace stood there, his hat in his hands, his face heavy with sympathy. "Miss Sullivan, I've got papers from Mr. Daniels, lawyer," he said quietly. "I'm real sorry. It's an eviction notice." Catherine's stomach dropped. "What?" she whispered. 3 days? "Sheriff, I told Mr. Liot I'd have the money by the end of the month. We just need a little more time." The sheriff looked away. "Mr. Daniels bought up Liot's properties last week, this cabin included. It's his call now." Edmund Daniels, Quincy's father. Her legs nearly gave out. After he left, Catherine read the notice again and again, her hands trembling. "This is my fault," Mary whispered. "If I weren't ill." "Don't you dare say that," Catherine said fiercely. "We'll find a way." But before she could think of one, another knock came. Catherine braced herself for more bad news and opened the door. Quincy stood there, hat in hand, jaw tight, eyes full of guilt and fire. "Catherine," he said softly, "I heard." She didn't let him finish. Her pain spilled out like water from a cracked jug. "Did you tell your father about us?" she demanded. "Did he buy this cabin just to drive us out?" Quote, "No," Quincy said, stepping inside. "I had no idea until this morning. My father, he's trying to control me, and he's using you to do it." Mary rose slowly from her chair. "Mr. Daniels, I'm Mary Sullivan." Quincy bowed his head respectfully. "Ma'am." "I'm sorry it's under these circumstances." Catherine crossed her arms, trying to hold herself together. "Why are you here, Quincy?" "To make this right." But before he could explain, the sound of horses thundered down the road. Catherine looked through the window and felt her blood run cold. 3 riders approached, Edmund Daniels leading them. He had come to their doorstep. And he did not look like a man ready to negotiate. He looked like a man ready to end something. Right there, in front of them. Before Catherine could breathe, Quincy stepped toward the door. "Stay back," he said softly. "This is between him and me." But Catherine shook her head. "No. This is our home. I won't hide." The riders pulled up outside. Edmund dismounted, his sharp gaze sweeping over the cabin with clear disgust, before settling on Catherine, then on his son. Catherine felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Everything was about to change, and she didn't know if she was strong enough to face what came next. Edmund Daniels stood tall in front of the Sullivan cabin, his tailored coat spotless, his posture sharp as a blade. The early morning sun hit the silver in his hair, making him look even more severe. Catherine could feel her mother's weak breath behind her and Quincy's steady presence beside her, but none of it eased the fear twisting inside her. "So this is where you've been hiding," Edmund said, his voice cool and sharp. "I warned you about wasting time on foolish ideas, Quincy. But you never listen." Quincy stepped forward, placing himself between Catherine and his father. "I'm not hiding. And I'm not wasting time." Edmund's gaze slid over Catherine like a judgment. "Miss Sullivan, I can see why my son is confused. You're a pretty little thing, in a humble sort of way. But beauty does not erase reality." Quote. Catherine lifted her chin, though her knees were shaking. "Mr. Daniels, with respect, we don't need your approval." Edmund gave a humorless laugh. "Approval? You think this is about approval? My son has responsibilities. A future. A name to uphold. He does not belong in a shack at the edge of town." "She didn't ask me to be here," Quincy said. "I came because I chose to." "And I choose to end this," Edmund replied. "You will come home now. We have business to run and a marriage arrangement to finalize. Elena Whitfield arrives next week." "I'm not marrying Elena," Quincy said, calm but firm. Edmund's jaw tightened. "You are." "Because I said so." "No," Quincy said again. "I make my own choices." Edmund stepped closer, voice rising. "Not while you live under my roof and bear my name. If you stay here, if you choose this girl, you lose everything. Your inheritance, your position, every advantage you were born with." Catherine felt the words stab deep. She saw the weight in Quincy's shoulders, the pain he tried to hide. This was her fault. She couldn't let him throw his life away. "Mr. Daniels," she said quickly, "please, Quincy and I are not." "Catherine, don't," Quincy said sharply, turning toward her. But she pressed on, forcing strength she didn't feel. "Your father is right. You and I are nothing. You barely know me." Quincy stared at her, the hurt in his eyes cutting deep. "You don't mean that." Catherine swallowed hard. "I do. You're confused. I'm just someone you feel sorry for." Edmund smirked, satisfied. See, Quincy? Even she understands. But Quincy didn't back down. She's lying to protect me. That's who she is. Enough, Edmund snapped. I am done entertaining this nonsense. He pointed toward the horses. Get on. Now. Quincy crossed his arms. No. Very well. Edmund's voice turned cold as winter. If you choose her over your family, you're cut off entirely. Catherine's breath stopped. No home, no inheritance, no land. You'll walk away with nothing, Quincy. Nothing. Silence fell. Then Quincy said softly but clearly, Then I'll take nothing, because I'd rather have nothing with honesty than everything with chains. Edmund's face went red with fury. Fool! Absolute fool. He yanked the reins of his horse and mounted in one angry motion. 3 days, he said to Catherine coldly. Be off my property, or I'll have the law remove you. He rode away with his men, dust rising behind them like a storm. When they were out of sight, Quincy turned to Catherine. Why did you lie? He asked quietly. Tears burned her eyes, but she forced them back. Because he's right, Quincy. I won't let you ruin your life. I won't be the reason you lose everything. You're the reason I found everything that matters, Quincy said, stepping forward. Please, she whispered, stepping back. Just go. Quincy's face fell. You want me gone? She nodded, even though it tore her apart. Yes. But Quincy didn't move at first. He just stood there, looking at her like he was memorizing every detail. I'll be back tomorrow, he said softly, because I know your heart, even if you don't. He mounted his horse and rode away. The moment he disappeared, Catherine collapsed into tears. Mary wrapped an arm around her. Oh, child, her mother whispered, you're breaking both your hearts. We don't have a choice, Catherine said, choking on the words. We have 3 days. The next morning brought small hope. Mrs. Hornsby arrived with a basket and news of a housekeeper job at the Silver Dollar Hotel, one that came with a room for 2. For the first time in days, Catherine felt a small spark of relief. But hope shifted again when a fine horse stopped outside their cabin. A woman stepped down, elegant, confident, older. I'm Victoria Daniels, she said with a warm but serious look. Quincy's sister. Catherine froze. Why are you here? To warn you and to help you, Victoria said. But we need to talk inside. When they gathered in the small cabin, Victoria looked around with real interest, not disgust. I've come because my father made a scene at breakfast, she said. Quincy stood up to him. He refused to marry Elena Whitfield. Father nearly had a fit. Catherine's heart raced. He stood up for me? For you, Victoria said with a small smile, and because he's in love with you. He'll never admit it first, but he is. Catherine shook her head. He barely knows me. Victoria leaned forward. He's been watching you for months. He rides into town every time he can, hoping to see you. He admires your strength, your kindness. He's not confused, Miss Sullivan. He's certain. Catherine sat speechless. Then Victoria slid something across the table, a deed, a key. This, Victoria said, is the property our grandfather left Quincy. My father cannot touch it. It's his, and he wants you and your mother safe. Catherine stared at the deed, her heart pounding. I can't accept this. It's not a gift, Victoria said gently. It's a choice. Quincy only wants you to have options. Catherine swallowed hard. Where is he now? Working, Victoria said. At the livery. He left home. He's making his own way. Catherine felt her heart twist. He had chosen her, truly chosen her. Mary touched her daughter's hand. Go to him, Catherine. Talk to him. Quote. Catherine nodded, trembling. Later that afternoon, she walked to the livery stable. She found Quincy repairing a stall door, sleeves rolled up, sweat on his brow. He looked up when he heard her steps. His eyes softened instantly. Catherine? She stood there, breathing hard. We need to talk, she said. He set down the hammer. Then, come closer. She stepped toward him, her heart pounding. Quincy, she whispered, what you're doing, it's too much. No, he said gently. It's just right. Before she could reply, footsteps approached the livery. Victoria again, her face pale. Quincy, she said. "It's father." Both turned to her in alarm. He had a stroke. He's asking for you." Catherine gripped Quincy's hand, and everything changed again. The ride to the Daniels ranch felt heavier than any journey Catherine had ever taken. The sky hung low, thick with gray clouds, and the wind carried the smell of rain as if the whole world sensed something life-changing was approaching. Quincy rode ahead with urgency, his jaw locked and shoulders tense. Catherine and Victoria followed behind, the horses moving quickly down the long dirt road. When they reached the ranch house, everything was too still. The workers stood in quiet clusters. A housekeeper hurried them inside without a word. Catherine's heart thudded against her ribs as they walked down the long hallway toward the bedroom at the end. Inside, Edmund Daniels lay propped up on a bed that suddenly seemed too large for him. His right side was limp, his face pale, but his eyes were sharp, awake, waiting. Quincy stepped forward, and for a moment, he was not a grown man but a son facing the one person he had never been able to please. "Father," Quincy said softly. Edmund's gaze flicked toward Catherine. "Bring her closer," he said in a slurred voice. Catherine hesitated, but Quincy reached back and took her hand, guiding her to stand beside him. Edmund studied her carefully, his breathing uneven. "So you're the Sullivan girl, the one my son turned our whole world upside down for." Catherine swallowed hard. "I never asked him to." "No," Edmund whispered. "I believe that." Quote, Quincy took a small breath. "Why did you want to see us?" "Because," Edmund said slowly, "I was wrong." The room went still. Edmund fought for breath, his voice weak, but full of the kind of honesty that comes only when life is slipping away. "All these years, I thought strength meant control, but real strength." His gaze shifted between Quincy and Catherine. "Real strength is choosing love over fear." Quincy's throat tightened. "Father—" "No, let me finish," Edmund said. "I pushed you toward a life that matched my ambitions, not yours. I tried to shape you into myself. But you're your mother's son, and she was better than me in every way." His voice softened with a memory only he could see. "I drove you away when all I wanted was to keep you close." Tears burned in Quincy's eyes. "You can come home," Edmund whispered, "but on your terms. Take over the ranch. Run it with Victoria. And if this girl," he looked at Catherine, "if she's the one you love, then bring her. She's welcome here." Catherine felt her breath catch. Quincy squeezed her hand. "I love her, Father, with everything I have." Edmund nodded weakly. "Then I'm glad she's the one you chose." The nurse stepped forward, sensing Edmund's energy fading. "He needs rest." But Edmund held Quincy's hand. "Stay," he whispered. "Please." Catherine stepped back with Victoria and watched as Quincy sat beside his father. For the first time, they looked not like enemies, but like family. Broken, hurting, but finally reaching toward each other. Hours later, when Edmund fell asleep, they stepped outside. The clouds had broken, and soft sunlight touched the ranch fields. "Thank you for coming," Quincy said to Catherine quietly. "I'll always come when you call," she answered gently. In the days that followed, Edmund's condition stabilized but didn't improve. Quincy moved back to the ranch to help Victoria run it. Catherine kept her job at the hotel, visiting the ranch often with her mother. Bit by bit, life shifted into a new rhythm, one that felt steadier and kinder. One warm afternoon, Quincy brought Catherine and Mary to the small cabin by Thompson Creek, the property left by his grandfather. The creek sparkled in the sun, wildflowers swaying softly around them. Catherine stepped inside the little home and froze. Quincy had repaired everything. New boards, fresh paint, clean windows, even a small kitchen table with 3 chairs. "You did all this?" she whispered. Quincy rubbed the back of his neck. "I wanted you to have something that belongs to us. Not my father, not anyone else." Mary walked slowly through the main room and nodded with approval. "It's perfect." Later, when she stepped outside to let them talk, Quincy took Catherine's hands. "Catherine," he said, voice low but steady, "I know life has been hard on you. I know you think you don't belong in my world, but you belong with me." Her breath caught in her throat. "You taught me what matters," he continued. "Not land, not money, not a name. You, your heart, your courage, your kindness." He reached into his pocket. A small gold ring with a single pearl. "It's not fancy," Quincy said quietly, "but it's ours. Just like this home, just like the life I want with you." Catherine felt tears blur her vision. "Quincy, I love you," he whispered. "Marry me, be my wife, build a life with me in this cabin. Let me stand beside you, not above you, not in front of you. Beside you, always." Catherine's voice trembled. "Yes, Quincy, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and when he kissed her, the whole world seemed to quiet around them. The creek flowing, the birds singing, her mother watching from the porch with tears in her eyes. The wedding took place in the Canon City church a few months later. Simple, beautiful, filled with joy. Edmund attended in a wheelchair, Victoria by his side. His eyes softened when Quincy kissed his bride. In his own way, in his own silence, he gave his blessing. Life became full and steady after that. Catherine and Quincy built a home filled with laughter, warmth, and love. They worked hard. She helped with ranch bookkeeping. He continued repairing and expanding the cabin. Mary opened a small dressmaking shop in town as her health improved. Victoria became the wise, steady hand on the ranch. And when Catherine told Quincy she was expecting their first child, he held her close and cried with joy he couldn't hide. Years later, as they sat on the porch watching their children play by the creek, Catherine rested her head on Quincy's shoulder. "Do you ever regret it?" she whispered. "Choosing me over everything you had?" Quincy kissed the top of her head. "I never lost anything that mattered," he said softly. "And I gained everything worth living for." Catherine looked out over the water, the same creek where Quincy had first told her he'd stand by her no matter what. She closed her eyes in gratitude for the love she found, the life she built, the man who refused to let her believe she wasn't enough. That dusty day in Canon City, she had told him she was too poor for him, and Quincy Daniels had proved for the rest of his life that love, when true, makes everyone rich.